Welcome! This is week 1. Here is our block. Let's get sewing.
And how's everybody doing? Who is ready to start making a quilt? I am so excited about this. So if you did not see last week's stream, we are going to do a 13-week course. Let me make sure my chat is coming up. Say hey if you're in. Let us know you're in here. And let us know where you're from. So this is going all over the world, and I am so excited. We are doing a beginner's course to sew this beautiful quilt behind me. And it is free, totally free. If you go back a week or if you just watch today, I'm going to go over everything you need again, just in case you missed the first one. But this is a sew-along for us to all do together. It was mainly meant for beginners, but I've got a lot of other quilters that are joining us for this 13-week ride to make this beautiful quilt. And it's not as hard as it looks. So I want beginners to realize they can make a really beautiful quilt without having to worry about it being harder, because sometimes it looks hard, but it's really not what it looks like. There we go. Sharon Kincaid's on. I see Facebook is working. Now let me see. And there's Regina Myers. And Regina, I see you got that tension working. Thank goodness. Sandy, you just throw out messages on there, and I'll try to keep up with them. And there is Quilting Carnivore. I think that's Karen Warwick. All right. Hello, Sharon. Hello, Regina. There's Sandy Wilmoth from Philippi, West Virginia. We've got Sharon in. She is from Weston. Sharon, I think. Sharon Kinney is from Salem. And we have Ohio in the house. So glad to have you guys here today. All right, I'm just going to go over a few of the basics first. Number 1, welcome to Living the Dream Quilt Shop. We're located in Bridgeport, West Virginia. We've got a Facebook channel, now a YouTube channel. So if you like what you see here today, make sure you hit the subscribe on YouTube. Hit the notify. That way you'll be notified every time there's a new stream, a new tutorial, a new podcast, and we're going to be putting out a lot. There's Diane Workman from Philippi. Hey, Diane. Good to see you. Ann McMillan, Carlisle, PA. Welcome in, Ann. Glad to have you. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. On Facebook, you can hit the follow and the notification button so you'll always see us. All right, Dottie Dillon's long arming. You're fine, Dottie. The great thing about this quilt-along is people from all over the world, no matter what time of day or night, can jump on, watch the video, and make comments. Now, let me tell you the one thing I have found out about YouTube. So, there are 2 different kind of comment sections on YouTube. There's the live chat section, and there's the comment section. So if you're watching us after this live has aired and stopped, you can also, 24 hours later, you can double click on the comments and you'll see chats to the right. So you can switch it to the live chats, see what everybody put on there, questions people ask, or if you're on your mobile phone, you can swipe to the right and the live chats will come over after 24 hours. So you can't see them at the same time. I wish YouTube would fix that, but that's something else. Okay, so there's just a few things we need, and I hope everybody has them that's going to do it with us today. It is just the basics. So I'm going to switch cameras here. There we go. Tutorials. Okay, so hopefully you can still see me in the corner of your screen, and you can see my work area. So I made this so I don't have to switch the camera around a lot. Let me get this cord out of the way. And I think I can put this up for now. I'm not going to need that. Okay, so here, number 1, I've got my material. So what I had everybody get for this tutorial, there's Karen Bush from Alabama. She's actually from West Virginia. She keeps leaving us for cold weather. So what I have is I have 4 blenders. These are things that, here is my focal fabric. They are fabrics that go well with my focal fabric and they blend in. So I can do all of my different blocks and I can catch, this is going to be my border, and I'm also going to have a few of my blocks that include this fabric to make it all come together. Then I have my background fabric, and as you see in the quilt behind me, you don't always have to use a white or a light as your background in your block. You can use any color you want, and this is going to be your quilt. And I hope we have a lot of beginners that are doing their first quilt. My son Seth is going to set up a place where you all can post pictures of your blocks as you do them, and everybody can see the different colors, the different color combinations in these quilts, and see all of these beautiful quilts that are being made all over the world. So, with the blender fabrics, you need 3/4 of a yard, maybe only a half a yard, but I wanted to give you guys extra for the beginners in case they needed to do extra cuts or they didn't cut something quite right, so you would have plenty to finish your quilt. Now, the background fabric. I didn't use as much as I thought, so you really only need 3/4, unless a lot of people like to use white in every block. So if you think you're going to use your background in every block, 3/4 would be good. And a lot of people, if you all can see in my quilt, here is the border. A lot of people like to put a small border in between their quilt top and their border of their background fabric. So there would be like a 2-inch white border there on that background, before that background fabric. So if you want to do that, save out about, let's see, so that quilt was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2.5. So about 15 inches of your background fabric if you want to put that extra border in. And then for your focal fabric, for the fabric you want to use for your border and maybe some in your quilt, you're going to need at least 6 times 5, 30 inches for your border. So I told everybody 1.25 yards. That way they would have enough to have fabric left over to use in the actual blocks if they wanted to. Otherwise, if you're just wanting to do your border, 1 yard will be plenty. Okay, what else do we need? I'm going to set my fabrics over here to the side. An ironing pad or an ironing board, anything that you can iron on to press our pieces, and an iron. You need a trusty dusty iron. Any kind of iron will do. I'm going to use a bigger iron because normally I would use a small iron for my smaller pieces and a larger iron when I'm ironing or when I'm pressing my rows and my actual quilt top. But I want people to see you don't need a whole bunch of stuff to make a quilt. So I'm going to be using 1 iron only to show you that's all you need. Set this to the side. And I tried to make this all in one station, so I need to pull some stuff out here. Rulers. So I told everybody last week there's a lot of different rulers. There's Mary Beth from Wisconsin. There's my son Kenyon. Kenyon, you going to join in on making a quilt? Yes, you are the boss of your own quilt. Karen Bush, great one. Linda Utt from West Virginia. Welcome in, Linda. These are called square-up rulers. And square-up rulers are really important when you are making a block. We're going to be doing 12.5-inch blocks. And they are very important to lay on top of your block, to cut around, to make sure your block is the exact size you need it. And when we are cutting different, let's lay that down there. When we're cutting different blocks out, these come in very handy to lay on your fabric and cut it to the exact size you need it instead of using a larger ruler like one of these. Now these rulers are 24 24 inches. They are used when you're cutting your longer lengths of fabric. So on this quilt, you are not going to need that. They do come in handy for the borders, though. So if you have one, that's great. If not, we can work with your square up ruler. And this is a replica of the block we're going to make today. We're going to be doing the 12 and a half inch 9 patch. This is one of the simplest quilting blocks that's out there. And to get people started, especially for the beginners, I wanted them to see how to do their seams, how to nest seams, how to get that perfect 1/4 inch seam. So I thought today would be the best day to start off with one of the easiest blocks and just show everybody how to get that. And I'm going to go back to this screen real quick. And just to show you all, in our quilt right here is our 9 patch. And look how beautiful that looks in the quilt. It is just a simple block. You can make a whole quilt with it, and it turns out beautiful every time. So that is going to be the first block we are doing today. So is everybody ready to get started? Kathy Durr. Hello, Miss Kathy. Tell everybody where you're from, Kathy. And anybody that's just joining us, make sure jump in, say hey to everybody, get to know everybody, because for the next 13 weeks, we're going to be hanging out. All right, let's see. All right, there's one more thing I want to talk about here. Let me go back to this screen. Okay, our sewing machine. Let me flip around here. Now, once again, yes, Angie, absolutely. I am using the most basic machine that I have in my shop because I want everybody around the world to know you can make this beautiful quilt with the most basic of quilting items. You don't have to have all the bells and whistles. And for beginning quilters, when I began quilting, I didn't have a whole lot of money, and I wasn't sure that it was something I was going to keep doing. So when you're starting out, if you're just trying to decide if you want to quilt, you do not have to spend a bunch of money to learn if you like it or not. This will do that quilt back there perfectly fine. And then if you get the quilting bug, like so many of us have, then you can start trading up and getting all the machine you want with all the bells and whistles on it. But I wanted to do it on something basic so you could see it doesn't take all the bells and whistles to make a great quilt. Now, the wasabi tape. As you can see here, I have this tape on my machine, and what I did, lost my fabric already. What I did was I just took a small piece of fabric and I sewed a seam on it. And I measured that seam with my ruler. So let me just go ahead and do that. And you guys might have to bear with me sometimes. I'm used to a machine with all the bells and whistles. So what I did was I just sewed a seam right on the corner of my my sewing foot. Lift that off, cut your thread. And then what I did was I took a ruler, and I don't know if you guys can see this up close. I tried to use green thread so you guys could see what I was doing. And on my ruler, that is a perfect 1/4 inch. So once I knew where that 1/4 inch point was, I laid this wasabi tape. This is very cheap crafter's tape. You can get it at any hobby store. Most quilt shops have it. And I laid that down along that line. I put your, once you get that 1/4 inch on your fabric, put it back in your machine, put your foot down so it holds the fabric straight, and lay your tape. You can use painter's tape. You can use, they actually have 1/4 inch tape that most quilt shops sell. Lay that tape down there in a line. That way you have a line to follow so you can get that perfect 1/4 inch seam. Almost every quilting pattern uses a 1/4 inch seam, and it's really important in order to keep your blocks straight and in order to keep them from being wonky that you try for that 1/4 inch seam. No quilt is perfect. Don't get discouraged if it's not there. If it's way off, then you use your handy dandy seam ripper to take that apart and do it again. If you're just a tad off, you don't have to rip the seam out, but the closer you can be to that 1/4 inch makes it really important. Thomasville, North Carolina, but normally Pennsboro. I knew you were from up there. There's Marilyn Reynolds. Hello, ma'am. How are you today? Okay, so once you have that 1/4 inch seam, now we're going to talk about the fabric. When you are cutting your fabric, and I'm going to move this camera back over here a little bit, there are 2 things with cutting fabric. Number 1, it's really important to be over your fabric, because if you're sitting down cutting from behind it, you can't always see over the edge of that ruler to make sure you are cutting exact, and you want it to be exact. Another thing is, and I'm going to show you this to show you the mistakes I made when I started quilting. So let me iron this a little bit so it's a little bit better here. So we're getting ready. The first thing we are going to cut is our border fabric. And depending on the length of the ruler you have to cut this border fabric, because your border fabric is going to be 44 inches long. So most people don't have a ruler long enough to cut this big length. We're going to have to fold it over and cut it like this. Now, when you fold your material over, like so, you need to make sure that it is even at the bottom. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So when you fold it over, let's say that there's a little piece that is stuck out like that, and you're not aware of it, and you fold that fabric over. I think it just went back into place. I shouldn't have ironed it. Let's see. Okay. So number 1, I can feel that there's a lip there. So I know that there is something wrong and this isn't folded nicely. And let me show you what happens. So let's say I am cutting a 2.5 inch strip. And I'm going to have to stand up for this one. I always have to stand when I cut fabric. It's a habit. So I'm going to flip this around. And that fabric just wants to go back in place. It's like, no, you're not cutting me right. No. Okay, so let's say I fold it over and I've got a little bubble stuck in there. Now, I'm going to cut my 2.5, let's say I'm cutting the 2.5 inch borders. Now, when I unfold this, if you can see that, it's thinner down here and then it bubbles out and goes back in. So, I do not have an even, I'm actually a 1/2 inch off up here at the top. Let me hold that right on that line. So I'm going from 22 and a quarter to almost 23 and 5/8. And that's how out of line that shape is. So you want to cut it. You want to make sure when you fold your fabric over that it is straight. All right, Dottie, good job. Love you too, honey. All right, so now we're going to go ahead. I'm going to move the machine over a little bit. And we are going to go ahead and cut our border fabric. So what I want everybody to do is lay your focal or your border, the fabric you want for your border out. And we're going to open it. Down here at the bottom is your selvage. It usually has a white strip along it telling you where the fabric's from. And then the other side can either have that or just a fringed edge. We're going to keep those two together. So that we've got a length of about 22 inches right here. And then I'm going to very carefully fold this in half. And when I do, I am matching the top edges so they are even with each other. And then I'm going to smooth it toward the back and make sure I don't feel any puckering in there. I want it to all be smooth so I know I'm going to get a very clean cut. And now, like I told you, I knew a lot of people could not afford to use the bigger rulers, so I'm going to use a smaller ruler on this. And I'm going to use my 12.5 inch because I know it'll cover that. And we are going to cut 6 inches. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up along my mat. I'm going to overhang it about a 1/2 inch past the 1 inch line. And I'm going to square this edge up so I know that my rows are going to be even. And if anybody has any questions, you just throw them in the comments. And if I miss one, somebody repeat it for me so I see it. Okay, so we are going to need 5 of these cuts. Let me move this over a little bit. You guys can't see me anymore. Okay. So we're going to need 5 of these 6 inch cuts. So I'm going to move my ruler over to 6 inches. And one of the bigger things is sliding rulers. If your ruler is sliding, there are things you can get called grippy dots, or you can get grippy spray. If you spray 3 or 4 times on your ruler, wave it 3 times, it's already dry, and it doesn't slide as bad as it did before. So it helps you hold that in place because you don't want it to slide while you're cutting or you mess your cut up. So I'm going to slide this over to 6 inches. And I'm going to cut my first border piece. Sandy Wilmoth, you got Larry there cutting for you? Sandy's got bad, is it the wrists or the elbows? And she has a very hard time cutting. All right, I'm going to make my second cut. And the reason we're going to go ahead and cut these borders out now is so they are out of our way and we know how much border fabric or focal fabric we have to do the rest of our quilt with. I'm going to line this up again. And sometimes when you're cutting with these rulers, you might need to zero it out again to make sure your edge is straight. My edge is still nice and straight. All right, Sandy's cutting it herself. Good job, girlfriend. I can't wait to see these blocks and see all the colors people are using in these. All right, I'm making my third cut. And I don't like to saw it, but I'm standing at an angle from my camera. Usually one cut will do it, but I'm trying to make sure you guys can see what I'm doing and not get too badly in front of the camera. There is 3. There's Eve Prosser. Hey, girlfriend. Are you joining us for the block of the week? I was going to ask if you had enough fabric to do it, but Eve, I know you did. Eve is from Georgia. So if we have any Georgia people in, Eve is a Georgia girl. I think she's originally from West Virginia though, right? That was my 4th cut. I have 2 more cuts to make for the border. And if anybody has any questions, post them in the comments and I will try to get them answered as quick as possible. I might have had them on 1, 2, 3, 4. We only need 5 of these. So there is my 5th one. For some reason I was thinking 6, but it's, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe it is 6. Let's go ahead and cut 6 just in case. And if not, we'll have some left over for a block later. But I was thinking 30 inches, but something's tickling my brain. Make sure that's nice and smooth and even, and do my last cut. Okay, now I'm going to take this border fabric and I'm going to put it to the side so I don't make a mistake and use it during the quilt process till we get it finished. And does everybody need a few minutes? Yes, yes, Karen and Eve are cousins. So see, Karen, now for the next 13 weeks, you and Eve can sew together. All right. So I will give you girls just a minute to finish the cutting of your borders. Everybody doing okay with it? And while you all are doing that, I'll talk about the different quilting things that we can use. So, pins are a really good thing. This is just an example. Rulers, pins. There are so many different things out there for quilters. It can all be very overwhelming. And pins are just one of those things. There is these pins that are for, you can iron over them. They're very thin. They're very sharp. These are really good. And there are different types of pins. You've got longer pins, shorter pins. I like the longer pins. These are 1.5 inches. Yeah, 1.5 inches to pin my seams with. And you'll see we're going to pin some seams today. And then there's all kinds of pin holders. But it's always good to have pin holders. For a long time, I didn't have pin holders. And I would drop them on the floor. I would lose them all over the place. And there's so many different types of pin holders. I've got this wristlet that holds my pins, and I love it because they don't fall off. It keeps them very firmly on there. I just got this a couple weeks ago. I absolutely love it. But then you've got pin holders of all different types that you can buy. Or you can have your friends build a voodoo doll of your boyfriend or husband, and when you get mad at him, go sew and stick pins in him. This is my little Cecil doll that my girls made me in retreat last year. And when I get angry, it helps. It's like therapy. Quilting is therapy, and so is this. So there's all kinds of things you can buy to quilt, but you don't need a whole bunch of stuff to start out. And that's the point I'm trying to make with this class, is to show you some different things that you can use and that are handy, but you don't need to have everything just to do a quilt. Okay, so if everybody is caught up with cutting their 6-inch border pieces, now we are going to make our first block. And here's a replica of what we're going to be making. And since everybody is using their own colors, this is your quilt. You get to decide what you like, what looks best. None of us, I don't believe, are using the exact same materials. So with mine, I decided to use my border and focal fabric as my center block. And then because we've only got 4 of the other colors plus a background, you can pick whatever you want to put around it. You don't even have to use your focal fabric in the middle. You can use it on the sides or not at all. So now you need to look at your fabrics and decide which ones you want to use in your very first block. Now, what you can do, and I'm going to start cutting mine out and show you. So what I like to do is I like to keep my fabric where I've got it on each side. I'm going to lay it out. I've already ironed it, and I already used my best press on it. And you don't have to use best press, but this is a starch, and it makes your fabric a little bit stiffer so that it's easier to work with. And you just spray it and iron it. It also takes wrinkles out really well. So I love best press, but you don't have to use best press on your fabrics. Yes, we do. A sewing retreat sounds great, Karen. So what we are going to do, we need 9 4.5-inch squares. And that's what we're going to have to cut. So I hope you guys can see this okay. I'm using my 4.5-inch line. And if you have trouble seeing your 4.5 inches, you can take your wasabi tape and you can just place it right down your ruler to the 4.5. The only trouble I have, and I've seen a lot of girls do this, I put it on the inside of my cut if I need it, because I want to make sure if you have it on the outside of your cut, you can't see if your fabric's hanging over. So if you need that, I would put it on the inside of your cuts, just like this. And then I'm going to tear off the extra that's going over the 4.5 there. That way I can see where my fabric is going. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it out just a little bit bigger than what I needed. So I'm going to cut down and across. Oh, I need to stand up. I cannot cut well if I'm sitting down. Okay, now I'm going to get this big bulk out of the way. Now that I have those two sides cut well, I'm going to put this right on my ruler. Make sure nothing's sticking over, that it's right on the edges. And I'm going to cut my other two sides. 4.5 inches. And now, even though I may not use both of these pieces that I've got 2 pieces that I can play around with. Hey, Debbie Novak, how are you, sweetheart? Good to see you. Debbie's another West Virginia girl. All right, so what I'm going to do now, and I don't think I'm going to use my background fabric, my white background fabric, in any of these 9 that we're going to do today. So I'm going to cut 2 each of my focal fabrics, 4.5 inches. So you girls cut yours right along with me, and you'll see that I've got some cuts in my material. When I did the quilt behind me, I knew that I was going to do one along with you all. So I cut double the fabric so I would have enough to do both quilts. So that's why you'll see some cuts in my fabric. So I'm going to lay this out flat. And now you have to watch, like here on mine where I've already cut, you can see there's an overlap here. So I'm going to cut about a 5-inch block to get rid of that overlap, and then cut it down to size. And if you want, you can just go ahead and cut a block out of each of yours bigger, and then go ahead and cut them all down to size. I think that's what I'm going to do. Everybody doing okay with it? And if you're just coming in and you let us know where you're from, say hey. We love having new people in here. And this doesn't look very well ironed. I'm going to iron this piece again. Okay, no. I think I need more best press. And I just hit the mic. Sorry, you guys. Did that wake you up? My iron's back there making noise. Can you guys hear me okay today? How's the mic today? And for all of my Georgia girls, Eve, how close are you to Atlanta? See you Thursday, Sharon. Have a great day, honey. Okay, now I'm going to flip that around, line it up with my ruler. And this is what I was talking about with, if you sit down and cut, you really can't see behind your ruler. So you may not get that straight cut that you really need to keep all your seams straight. So always make sure that you are over top of your work so you can see it from all angles. And these are 4.5-inch squares that we're cutting out of each of our materials to make our 9 patch. I'm just going to make the one block today, Karen, and they'll be able to use their other block in a future block. I just want them to be able to have the opportunity to pick if they want to use more than one of a color in their 9 patch. They can kind of showcase them a little bit. Oh, showcase them a little bit and see which setup they want to use for their 9 patch. And tonight you'll have a coloring page for next week's block. So you'll be able to color in the squares that we're going to be using to see what colors you want to use. Or we may not start that till the week after. We're going to do the 9 patch with a twist, and that might be kind of hard to do for you all. So we might wait until the week after to do the coloring pages. But that will be coming. And that makes a much easier way to showcase. But when you're first starting out, it's a little bit confusing, especially if you're going to cut and twist things. So we won't do that this week. And one more. How are you guys coming with your squares? I am so glad the sound's working better this week. We had some technical difficulties the other night. I think it was just the internet service. All right. Sandy, how are you doing? Are you doing okay with the cutting? Everybody, Diane? So today we're learning more about cutting. We're going to learn nesting when we nest our seams together, and that 1/4 inch seam is the good things you're going to learn today. 4 more to cut. All right, Karen. Oh, yeah, I got all mine. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Let me get a drink of tea. Everybody got their drink out and handy? You're fine, Sandy. You go ahead. And for you girls that once you get your square cut, this is what we're shooting for. So you can make it any way you want to make it. And in fact, if you wanted to cut 4 of one block and have it in each corner, or 5 and have it in the middle, kind of like a die, like a dice, you can do that. So when you get your squares cut, just start laying your squares out and see what kind of a look you want for your block. And you can trade them in and out. This is your first block. You can do it any way you want it. There is no rules. The only rules are you have to like it. So I'm trying my darker ones in the middles and my lighter ones on the outside to see if I like it that way. And that's okay, but I think I kind of like the darker ones on the outside. Let's see how I like it with... You can make it any way you want to make it. I think I like it that way. And this time I've put the 2 orange up here, and I've put the 2 pink down here. In this one I had everything across from each other, and I like that too, but I think this looks pretty. So I'm going to go for this one today. And while those girls are getting their squares cut out, we are going to take a 5-minute stretch. It's going to say 10-minute. Well, Sandy, you think you need about 10 minutes? We can take a 10-minute stretch and give you girls time to catch up, because I want everybody to be ready to do to sew together. Okay, that's fine. And another thing, for those of you on YouTube, I believe you all can see all the posts from YouTube and Facebook. Facebook can only see Facebook posts. So if you're on Facebook and you want to see everybody's chat, switch over to YouTube and you'll be able to see it. Okay, So we're going to take a 10-minute stretch. For those girls that are catching up, we'll just take a 10-minute break. Everybody stand up and stretch, get you a drink of cold water, and I will be right back so we can start sewing. And Sandy, Karen, you girls take your time and just get your blocks ready. And I will be right back. Out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take these first two blocks in this upper corner. Oh, I know light is so important. Yes, a lot of light, especially us older folks. Us older folks need a lot of light. So we're going to take the middle block and we're going to flip it over onto our first block. And you're going to pick that up and you're going to make sure that your fabric is even on your right side. So now I've got my first block on the bottom, my middle block on top, and I'm going to sew it down the right side. And I'm going to place it right along this wasabi seam tape here, so I know I'm getting a good 1/4 inch piece. And if you've got an old, a sewing machine like mine, you need to hold on to your upper thread as you begin. And sometimes you need to turn the knob to get it started. And then slowly sew that 1/4 inch seam, making sure you follow that tape right up for there if you're a beginner. And then I'm not going to take that off. We're going to do what's called chain piecing. So if you've never heard of chain piecing, we're going to sew the next piece right along onto that. Yes, Karen, I wish I'd have known this when I was a newbie. You should have saw some of my first quilts. They did not go together right. So we're going to leave that piece on. I sewed a couple stitches past it to get it out of the way. Now I'm going to take my very middle block and I'm going to flip it over on the second row down on my squares. Make sure those are even. And I'm going to lift my foot and place that right under the edge. And I'm going to sew down that one. And I'm going to do the same thing to these two bottom ones. And Karen, that's what I really like about this. Now I'm going to cut my thread. And now you've got 3 pieces on here. So all you have to do is take your scissors and snip those pieces apart. Keep them in line. So I have 1, 2, and 3 here. Now most of you don't have to move your machine to iron, but I will. Move these pieces over here so I don't have to keep moving the camera for you guys. Got my trusty dusty ironing pad that Miss Pepper Dinsmore made. Okay, so what I'm going to do is when you want to sew your seams toward the darker side. So what I'm going to do, wait a minute, let's see if we do. Some of you may not have done your blocks the same way I did. So what you're going to do is the top one, you want to press your seam toward the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up just halfway, and I'm going to lay my iron right down on that block and move it over toward the right so that my seam is pressed over toward the right. Can you all see that? Does everybody understand that? When I held that up, that made that seam stay over to the left. So when I pull my iron over it, it keeps both sides toward one direction. So there's the first one. Now on the second one, I'm going to do it the opposite way. So this is the way the block is going to go. I'm going to hold my iron down and I'm going to pull it toward the right. And when we go to nest our seams, you'll see why we're doing it this way. And now on the bottom one, and I've got a problem here. Why is this? Uh-oh. I must have miscut. Let's see. I did miscut. How did that happen? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear this seam apart and sew another block on real quick. This is where your seam ripper becomes your friend. So when I cut my two pieces together, I must not have had that matched up good. So now I'm going to cut another piece of green real quick. And sew that on there. Okay, we need 4.5. I think my iron's laughing at me. It's making noise. I do believe it's laughing at me. Let me give this a good press. And I'll sew that seam again. I don't know how I must have had it on the underside and missed that. Line my material up. Now everything matches. Oh, my machine just became unthreaded. Let's see. Welcome to the Lucy Show. This is the what not to do. Right, Karen Warwick? And is Sandy joining us today? Sandy, Karen's sister, not Sandy Wilmoth. Sandy, if you're out there, I misses you very much. All right, there we go. Now we have an even block. So on this one, we went to the right. Now on my third row down, I need to go back to the left again. So that's the way the block's going to lay. I'm going to lay this down like this. Make sure that seam goes to the outside and pull it across. Everybody up with me on this? Oh, she's at the doctor's. Well, she'll see how much I miss her when she gets on later. Okay, so has everybody got the first three sewn together? Let me know if you're up with me. Did you use your seam ripper a lot today? Yes. Thank you, Debbie. It's got to be your best friend. All right, let me lay these blocks back out. There we go. I don't know how that matched when I had that laid down there. That is so odd. Oh well. You had to walk around a while and have a Coke? Absolutely, Debbie. Debbie, it's been a couple weeks ago. I sewed the same row on a quilt wrong 3 times. The third time I said, okay, I'm too tired, I'm going to bed. I sewed it upside down all 3 times. I couldn't believe it. Okay, so after you have these 3 done, now what we're going to do is we're going to take this third block over and we're going to flip them over on our middle blocks. And starting at the top, we're going to line it up. And we're going to sew that 1/4 inch seam right down through there. And if you're like me, I always have to take my shoe off and I have to sew in my socks. It's a feel for the pedal kind of thing. Is anybody else like that? I can't sew with shoes on. I can't feel it. And so a couple extra stitches. Now I'm going to pick this one up. And you know you're holding it right if you've got that bottom block sticking out down there. This especially comes in handy if you're sewing fabric that needs to be one direction. So always make sure you're holding it the right direction before you sew it. And then with our third one, we're going to sew that right down. And cut that. Yes, you, Sandy. And I'm going to lay these out to make sure I've got them sewn the right direction. Okay. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this out of the way. You guys don't have to move yours, but let me just pile them. I've got first row, second row, third row piled on top of each other. Move my ironing pad back over here. Okay. So for the first row, I have this sewn toward the left. So on this side, I'm going to sew toward the right. So I'm going to have them opposite of each other. And you can do it from the back or the front. But when you do it from the back, a lot of times it'll leave a little gap in your material. I don't know if you guys can see this. So I found out later on in my quilting years, I can actually pull that up a little bit and I can see that I've left, when I sewed it over, it made a little gap there. So that's why I like to sew from the front and hold that up just a little bit and sew that over. Because that way it presses that seam as flat as it'll be and gets that seam flat also. So now my first row, the seams are facing away from each other. Now in row 2, we sewed this seam toward the middle. I'm also going to sew, we press that seam toward the middle. I'm also going to press this seam toward the middle. And you'll see why here in just a minute. And in the last one, it's going to be just like our first one was. We sewed that seam toward the outside. We're going to, I keep saying sewed instead of pressed. I can't get it out of my head. I'm going to press this seam toward the outside also. Okay, so now I'm going to lay my blocks back out. And you could still switch your rows around if you want. If you wanted a different direction, I think I like that way. And does everybody have their pressing done? Let me know when you're caught up. And if you're just joining us, I see a few more people have come in. Let us know who you are, where you're from. We love to see who's quilting along with us. If you catch this later, Seth's going to be cutting out the pauses and the lags. But while we're all sewing together, I'd like to have everybody together and everybody caught up so we can all learn and sew as we go. Oh, I dropped a couple pins. How's everybody doing? Let me know if you've got your squares cut out and if you've got them sewn together and pressed. And next up is nesting seams. So this is going to be a really good one. Took me a while to learn this one, but once you get the hang of it, it is easy as pie. And the only reason it took me a while to learn it is because I was afraid to ask. Don't ever be afraid to ask. If there is one thing I have found out, quilters love to share their wisdom and knowledge. And that's why I am so happy to see a lot more experienced quilters doing this quilt along with us, because everybody has different ideas and lots of people have easier ways of doing things. So to have a lot of experienced quilters in here with us, they might have ideas that I've never even heard of before to do things, and we can all learn. Okay, how about you other girls? Everybody caught up with me so far? I know Diane's just watching right now. Yes, we do like to talk, Karen, as we found out at retreat. I cannot wait till retreat. That is going to be great. And if anybody else wants to join in on our retreat, we still have a few spots left. In the description, you'll see our quilt shops at livingthedreamquiltshop.com. Just go there, type retreat in the search bar. It is 5 days and 4 nights of the most fun you'll ever have in Millersburg, Ohio. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and nest these seams together. So we are going to pick up row number 1 and row number 2. And we are going to flip them over together. We're going to flip row number 1 on top of row number 2. Okay? So I know that this green square is my top corner. Now, I hope this camera will get this close enough. I'm going to grab a pen off of my pen holder. And I'm not going to worry about this edge over here. What I'm going to worry about right now is where these two seams meet. So I'm going to walk this up. I'm going to hold it right here where they're together. And I'm going to walk that right up so that at the top they are meeting. I don't know how well you can see this, but that's the reason that we have one set of seams going one way and this going the other, because it's so easy to meet those up because there's actually a little pocket that they fit in together. And if you can see my green thread on here, I thought it would show up a lot better than that. On the back it does. I'll do it from this side. Maybe. I should have used black thread. I cannot believe that didn't show up any better than that. I actually have green thread and it looks white in my screen. Okay, so what I'm going to do, my seams are nested right there. So I'm going to put a pin right in there. I'm going to make sure, if I don't drop the pin. Okay, so I'm going to put a pin right in that seam about a 1/4 inch down. And on the other side, it ought to be meeting that right in that seam. So if you've got your seam nested right, it should meet. And then I'm going to go on down about 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to put that needle back through to the front side. And I'm going to make sure it comes in right on that seam again. So there, I've got that pinned. Now I can make sure that my fabric is straight over to the edge. And if you want to pin that too, that is perfectly fine. So you can keep that straight. Just throw a pin in there. Now I'm going to go down to the second place where they meet. And once again, one side the seam's facing one way, this side it's facing the other. I'm going to hold it with my fingers down here and open that up. And I'm going to slide that over to where that line meets and goes straight up to the top. I'm going to grab another pin. Slide that right in that seam. And make sure it comes through the back on the same place in the seam. And then come down, push it back in that seam, and right back in that seam. Now that is what is called nesting seams. So when we sew this together, those seams should be nested. And if you want, you can place another seam right at the end, or another pin right at the end. Yeah, just like a Lego block. Exactly. Good. That's a good, I can't think of the word for it, Debbie, but yeah, good comparison. Okay, so what I normally do, I don't put a seam, a pin on the end. I've already got my pin in this first seam nesting, so I just kind of straighten the fabric out so it's straight in line. I set my presser foot down on it, and I start sewing. So I'm going to sew up to about 1 inch away from my pin. Maybe a little bit closer than 1 inch. Right up till I'm almost to the foot. Now, I know that that seam pocket is right there where my pin is showing. So what I'm going to do is, you can also get an awl. You can also use your seam ripper. I don't think the seam ripper holds it as well, but it might. But I just like to use my finger, but you don't want to catch your finger in your sewing machine. So you don't have to follow it all the way through. I just kind of push down a little bit with my finger so it holds that seam in place. I hold the fabric back behind the seam. I'm not sending my finger through the machine. But once it, and my seam's kind of coming up there. Lift my presser foot a little bit. Just let it go. And let it sew through that. Now I'm going to sew on up to the next one. Okay. My pin is right there in front of the foot. I don't know how well you guys can see this. But it is right here in front of this foot. I'm going to hold it with my finger, pull that pin out, and let it go right underneath there. And then I just straighten out the rest of the material, make sure it's even. I've got a little tiny bit sticking out on the end. That is not going to matter because when we square our block up, that's going to go away. And just continue sewing across there. And now I'm going to open up and see if my seams met. And there my seam met. And there my seam met. It's a little teeny tiny bit off on this one. Maybe a stitch off. But if I hold it back here, can you see that? It's not bad at all. So I'm going to go with that. And what I'm going to do, go back to your ironing board. And I'm going to press that seam. Now, here, a lot of people like to press their seams open, and you can do that if you want. Most people go down and finger press it first. And that's so you don't get a whole bunch of bulkiness where your seams are when you send it to the long armor. But you can either press that to one side or you can press it open. I'm going to go ahead and press mine open because I do long arm and I know what happens when you get a bunch of bulky seams, but it's okay. And then I'm going to go back to the front. I know a lot of people don't iron, they just set it down and press it, but I like to iron mine flat and have it nice and flat and smooth. Isn't that pretty? Angie, how's yours coming out? Are you sewing along with us today? Who is sewing along with us? Let me know if those seams came out for you. And my iron's giving me a fit. I don't think it likes what I'm doing today. Let's see. There we go. Okay, now, I don't know if any of you noticed, but when I set this block down, I set it down backwards. Now, that is something all right, good job, Angie. So, make sure once you get it pressed, you put it back in the position you originally started in. You've got your middle block, you've got your edges the way you wanted it. So when you sew this third row on, everything is just like it needs to be. Otherwise, you're going to be using your favorite friend, the seam ripper. So now I've got mine laid out just the way I want it. I'm going to put my ironing pad back up. And we're going to nest some more seams. All right, so I'm going to flip the top over onto the bottom row. I'm going to hold my fabric up, and I'm not worried about the edges meeting. I'm worried about the seams meeting. So once again, The seams are back to back. I'm going to walk that up through there. And then I'm going to push that pin in. And make sure it comes out at the back seam, right on the seam. And that's the thing. Like, let's say that when you come on down, you push it in on the seam, but when you come out maybe 1/4 of an inch off the seam. Your block is going to be wonky. It's not going to fit right when you try to hold your material together. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it pretty straight with those seams to hold your fabric where your fabric needs to be. So then I can straighten up the edge, and then I'll go down to my next seam. Make sure the fabric's straight with each other. Hold it below. Open it up. Walk those fabrics up so the seam is against the seam. They'll nest right in there. And then I'm going to put that pin in. Fold it down. Come right back through that seam. And I promise you, the more you practice with this, the better you get. And I will tell you this. In that top block, let's see, you guys can see it up there. In this block up here, the first one I did, one of the seams is not nested. Can you see it? No, you probably can't. You might be able to pick it out if you get up really close. So that is the biggest thing I want to get across to beginners, and that's why I left 4 mistakes in this quilt. Every quilt has mistakes. Nobody is going to get up this close to your quilt except maybe a long armer. When they come into your bedroom or they walk into your living room and it's across the couch, laying across the bed, hanging on a wall, they're not there to pick out mistakes, and they would have to get really close to see the mistakes. So as a beginner, do not get discouraged when you have a mistake or something doesn't meet exactly right. In the end, probably you're the only person that's going to notice that mistake. So don't get discouraged about mistakes like that. As long as it's pretty close, it's going to come out fine. Your favorite friend is Marie, Angie? Aw, yes, she is, Marie. She sure is. That is a sweetheart right there. Okay, so once again, I don't pin the edge. I just, when I go to put it on the machine, I make sure that it's even with my material and straight. If it's sticking out just a tad, it is no big deal. When we square up the block, it will be right. Okay, so now I'm going to sew right down through here. We're sewing the 3rd row together. I am almost to my pin. I'm going to push down with my finger on that seam. Take the pin out. Hold it in place back here too. Once it gets up to the foot, let it go. And just go slowly. It's not a horse race. You don't have to go really fast. And the slower you go, the more the seams tend to stay in place. Now I'm going to take that next pin out, hold that in place, and then make sure my fabric's even at the end, and sew right on. Close-ish enough-ish, I like it. That's right, Diane. If they see a mistake, they're looking way too close. Exactly. All right. So now I have my 3rd row sewed on, and I'm going to go ahead and press this one. How many people have their 1st row sewed on? And how did you do? All right, so I'm gonna sew this one open too. You can sew it to the side, it doesn't matter. I just like to sew my longer seams open. And you'll be able to feel it if you fold your material over to one direction, you can feel that little bit of bulk. It's not a lot, so it really doesn't matter, especially on this square. When we get to a lot of half square triangles and we've got like 6 or 8 meeting in the middle, that's when you really want to start thinking about sewing your seam open. But to nest the blocks, it's much easier to have those seams sewed the opposite direction. And now, and it looks like, oh, 3 of my 4 corners met. I will show you guys my mistake. If you can see it there, I'm about a stitch off on that corner. My other corners seem to be really good. And how's everybody else doing? Is anybody up with me, or do you at least have your first row sewn together? Sandy Wilmoth, where are you at, honey bear? Marie, Angie, where are you guys at? Did you get the first row done yet? Sewed on to the second row. And if you're just coming in, you can watch this video anytime. That's the great thing about it. If you're on Facebook, you won't be able to see the YouTube chat. And if you're on YouTube after the live ends, there's posts and there's live chats. After 24 hours, you can double click on the comments and it'll give you the option to see the live chats, or you can just comment on the posts, either one. All right, close enough for government work. I like that, Angie. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to get my 12.5-inch ruler out. I think I had it here. There we go. And I am going to lay it down on this block. And it almost fits it exactly. I am just a smidge off on some of this. And like Angie said, if you are pretty close, it's close enough for government work. And especially the way we're doing these squares. But I am just a smidge off. I wish let me see. I'm going to turn this square around so you can maybe see it on here. If I put that like that, I think you girls can see this orange sticking out here. I'm sticking out just a hair here. Just a tiny dab there. A good little bit over here. So I'm going to center this. And I'm going to square this off to 12.5 inches. And you'll be able to see the little bit that I cut off here. My ruler moved. If your ruler moves, move it back in place before you cut. Got a little lightheaded there. Okay, so here is my block, and here is the smidges that I cut off of it. So barely anything. So if you did not, government work ain't that close, Seth, you're too funny. So if you don't have a 12.5-inch square up ruler, or if you're mat, you can square it up with your mat. if you don't have a long enough ruler to square that up, it's okay. It's not going to be that far off for this block. You can see I barely cut anything off. But Seth, we are looking for where we can go to place pictures of our blocks so everybody can see everybody's block. Can they post it on the chat? Can they go to the comments and post on YouTube or Facebook? What can we do so we can all quilt along these 13 weeks and see each other's work? Oh, Marie, if you are doing floors, I've got floors, honey. Come on over. I'll put you to work, girlfriend. Oh, Sandy, how did it turn out? How does it look? Angie, tell me how yours is looking. Karen, I know yours is looking great. Karen is my new embroidery queen. She bought the CM17 off me, and she has, or her sister bought it off me. She got it from her sister, and Karen is going to town on embroidery. You posted it on my page? Let me go look. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see all these. Is it on the Facebook page, Sand? Let's see. Is it on my regular page? What did it come out to, Sandy? Let me look at my personal page. Did you put it on my personal one? Oh, she did. Ah, look at Sandy's. I love it. Can you girls see the texture on the colors? I love it, Sandy. Oh, wow. Oh, you're going to do a second colorway. Good deal. It actually went to my personal one, but Sandy, once Seth gets tells us where to put these, I'll put it up there. That is beautiful, and I love the florals. Nice, nice. All right, Karen Warwick, we'll figure out where Seth's going to have us take these two, and we'll put those in there. And let me look, Sandy. Let's see. Oh, Angie Stevenson. Look at Angie's. Those teals are beautiful. I love it. Okay, girls, check your seam allowances. You might not have your seam allowances exactly at quarter inch. See if it's a little bit over that quarter inch. And you might want to, let me see. Because I think if you keep sewing, somebody correct me, Karen Warwick or Karen Bush, if they've got it taped or if they're sewing the same seam allowance throughout the whole quilt, it's still going to, all of their squares will come out to 12 and a quarter, I think. Yeah, that is beautiful colors. I love it. I cannot wait to see everybody's. This is going to be great. But do not worry about that 12 and a quarter right now. I will check into it, but I am thinking even if you girls are a little bit over that quarter inch, each block is going to come out to 12 and a quarter instead of 12 and a half. So the quilt's still going to go together good. Oh, Angie's doing sashing around hers. Angie getting fancy on us. All right. Good job, Angie. Yeah, just stay consistent. That's what I thought. So you girls don't worry if it comes out to 12 and a quarter. As long as you stay consistent with your seam allowance, your blocks are all going to come out the same. And even though yours is going to come out a little bit, maybe like a half to 3/4 of an inch. The quilt itself will be shorter than ours. That's not going to make a big deal at all. So that's fine. Oh, I can't wait to see them. I'm so excited. Once Seth gets us the place, we will post it so everybody can go there, post your first block, tell us who you are and where you're from. If you're joining us later, you can either join the live chat, double click on your comments, or go over to the right and just click on the comments and comment to us. Any questions, just put it in the comments and I will get back to you on it later on this week. So I will show you all later on this week. No, I'm not doing the coloring page for this. So you won't have a coloring page this week, but next week, this quilt right here, this is the 9-patch with a twist. We are going to have a little bit of fun with that. So if you want, no, don't pre-cut your blocks. We're going to have our blocks bigger because we're going to cut again and switch them around. So we used to tell beginners to not square up blocks until they're all done, then square. You know, that's a really good idea. That's a good idea, Karen. See, that's why I like having not older quilters, more experienced quilters in here with us. That is a great idea. So if you don't want to square your block up with yet, let's wait until the end when we have all 12 blocks done. That way we can square them up so they're all the right size in case anybody gets off. Great idea, Karen. Thank you. Okay, so next week we're going to do 9-patch with a twist. I will go ahead and let's see, what do those need to be? I don't have my notes up here. We'll go ahead and cut them again next week. If you want the dimensions before next week, you can email the shop at livingthedreamquiltshop.com or get a hold of me. A lot of you girls know me. Just call the shop. I will get my notes, and I'll also put a post out that says if you want to cut ahead for next week, it's going to be 9 blocks, but it's going to be a different dimension. I'm thinking 5 inches. Yeah. Let's see. I cut... Was it one down the middle and one across? Yeah. So that would be 5 inches. So if you want to cut ahead, it's going to be 5-inch squares to cut ahead. Yeah. I just didn't want to say that and be wrong, Karen. You know how my mind works half the time. Well, thank you all for joining us. If you enjoyed this, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube and hit the bell for notify so you can see all of our live videos, our live sales, our pre-recorded tutorials, our podcasts. There's a lot going on at Living the Dream. And thank you all for living the dream with me today, and I hope you're all living your dream. Thanks for joining us. I'm so excited to see how many quilters we get this week. I will see you all in a week, and join me tomorrow night for our live fabric sales. It's going to be beautiful, I can promise you that. I will see you all soon. Love and hugs, everybody. Thank you, Angie.